So let me tackle 3 points that I would like to address in response to your many, many questions, and with gratitude for some of your candid points, some of your documented points, but certainly some that you have expressed with great passion. And I'm very attentive and very sensitive to it. Let me just make a few points about the mandate under which we operate, say a little bit about how we took the fight against inflation, and finish with the digital euro. And I think that I will have tried to focus on those areas where you have really yourself tried to target your questions. So, on my first point, I am constantly reminded of the mandate that we have under Article 127 of the treaty. We know, and the European Central Bank at all levels of the institution, we know that our primary objective is price stability. There is no debate about that. We also know that there is a second paragraph which refers to secondary objectives which have to do with your economic objectives and how we can support those objectives. But this second article is very specific and starts with without prejudice to price stability. So it goes without saying that price stability is the driving force and that alternative options have to be without prejudice to that driving force of our action. And price stability is what is guiding us. Now, I would like to just mention, because this has been also raised, and many of you have actually raised it, this issue of market neutrality. And you, Madame Rapporteur, focused some of the remarks and some of the points in the resolution on this aspect, and I'm delighted that you could reach a consensus as to exactly what the report would say. But I just want to mention the fact that market neutrality has not always been absorbed invariably, and there have been moments in the history of the ECB, prior to my time, when market neutrality was derived from because it was necessary and appropriate in order to deliver on price stability. What we are doing when we pay attention in particular to the externality of the risk of climate change is that we are looking after and securing the balance sheet of the ECB to make sure that the risks which are not otherwise reflected by market mechanisms can actually be embedded into our management of the portfolio. Now, this is, in many ways, it's a story of the past, because, as you know, we are no longer in the business of purchasing assets, and in particular not purchasing corporate assets anymore. A few points about the fight against inflation, because many of you have actually mentioned this, and most of you to say you have well, one of you actually said that we had done a good job, and I was, those are moments when you enjoy the minute and a half that was given to, I think it was Mr. Navarrete, who actually said that he was satisfied with the work that we had done. And yes, we did take the fight against inflation, and as your resolution report indicates, we could have started earlier. We started effectively signalling that we were going to take action in December 21, and then we took very vigorous action by actually raising interest rate by 450 basis points in a fast, robust way, and more so than any time before, and we have now seen the result of it. One of you mentioned that we went from a high of 10.6% in October 22, which was the highest reading that we had on an average basis, not on a per country basis, I know, because some member states have much higher and have had much higher inflation. But on average, we went from that 10.6% in October 22 to 2.5% now in January. So I'm not saying that the fight is over, because we need to get to the target that we have, but we have closed the gap significantly by taking robust and rapid measures. And you cannot compare one central bank to the other. The circumstances are different, the fundamentals of the economy are different, the rate of inflation suffered by different countries are different, and the tools that are available are different as well. But, I don't take huge satisfaction about what we have done, but I think that for all European compatriots, certainly there has been a difference. Does it mean to say that prices have gone down? No. And the level of price is something that is very different from inflation. Prices have gone up, their level has stayed high, and the inflation that we are now trying to keep under control, hopefully at 2% in the course of 25, that is the measure by which the level continues to go up in a relatively modest way, and the one that we have defined as our price stability objectives. Now, let me now touch on a point that many of you have addressed, and that is the issue of the digital euro. And let me preface that with the fact that digital euro is not intended to replace cash. Absolutely not. Cash is around, will be around, no question about it, and so much so that we are currently, as you may have seen, working on the new face of our European banknotes, so that the euro will have a more relatable aspect to it, so that European using, and non-European for that matter, using the euro will actually appreciate the aspects that embody Europe, whether it is by way of reference to culture or by way of reference to natures. The jury is still out as to what it will end up being, but certainly cash will be around. Now, some of you have mentioned that the digital euro is a tool of our European sovereignty. And I would beg you to keep that in the back of your mind when you have that debate in Parliament. Many of you have called for that debate. I heard Honourable Member of Parliament Ferber mention that. I have heard Honourable Member Navarrete refer to the debate and calling for it, actually. I've heard many other members ask for that debate to take place. So please, as quickly as is possible, let us have that debate, because the digital euro is a necessary tool of this sovereignty. It's not the only one. It needs to operate at retail level, at wholesale level, and it needs to be combined so that we have solidity of payment infrastructure, as well as the tool that will enable us to effect payment on a cross-border basis. The issue that has been referred to as issue to be debated, financial stability, innovation, privacy, threshold, all of that needs to be debated. And do not assume that it is something that the European Central Bank will decide from the main building sitting on the River of Main in Frankfurt. No, we are waiting for you. And the ball is in your camp. And I very much hope that the honourable rapporteur will actually mandate as many goodwill around the table as possible in order to move that debate. I would very much dislike to see myself in this position in a year's time, still arguing that the digital euro is an instrument of our sovereignty. A lot of things are going to happen between now and a year from now. We should not underestimate the geopolitical movements, fractures, cracks and divides that we might be seeing in the future. And for that, we should be equipped with a digital currency that will help the defense of our sovereignty, just as we, and I turn to you who didn't find me very passionate about the future, but you're not listening to me really, doesn't matter. I passionately believe that we have internally in Europe barriers that we have imposed upon ourselves that we can remove, whether it is in the goods circulation, equivalent of 40% custom duties that we impose on ourselves as opposed to 15% inside the United States, or 110% equivalent of custom duties that we impose on ourselves on services. We have the tools at hand to be more productive, which will lead to a better competitiveness. So I'm very passionate about that, but my real passion is to deliver on our mandate, which is price stability for all our citizens. Thank you.
Merci Madame Lagarde voor votre discours passionné, passionnant. Ik zal nu het woord geven aan de rapporteur mevrouw Van Brugge. Alsjeblieft, u heeft 2 minuten.